Hello, my name is Brett. I'm the Director of Sales here in San Francisco. Welcome to this talk, What's New in Odoo Manufacturing version 14. Manufacturing, for anybody who's worked with it in the past, can be a very complicated world to dive into. There's a lot of ways to manage it. Some companies have big assembly lines following the same precise, repetitive process over and over again. And other companies are the exact opposite, doing unique processes every single time with a lot of change and variability from job to job. Production might be handled by one skilled individual over the course of several days, or it could be managed by a whole department of workers and completed in a single hour. There are endless possibilities for manufacturing. It's also very critical for an integrated business software like Odoo to analyze how the supply chain impacts manufacturing through sales that drive production, the purchasing of components, and also the shipping and receiving operations. Those things can also impact it too. In other words, to have a great manufacturing solution, you also really need to consider those related parts of the business as well. So we really try to keep all that in mind and listen closely to user feedback for version 14. So this year we decided to really prioritize two big things: making manufacturing way more flexible and making it a lot more efficient. Flexibility, it means allowing you a lot more control over how to operate within the app. It's a combination of removing restrictions that you have that were there before, but also making sure that it still actually works and that it doesn't break anything. And that's not always easy to do with an integrating platform like this, where a change that you make in manufacturing can immediately impact inventory, for example. So we actually had to refactor the manufacturing app in order to accomplish this. And to be more efficient, we focused a lot on planning. We made some big improvements across the board with the different apps in Odoo, so that things like deadlines or forecasting and replenishment, they're all way more impactful for the user now, and they're a lot more sophisticated while still being very user-friendly. So I'm going to show you a few key benefits of this new refactoring for manufacturing and how it makes manufacturing way more flexible now. Now, it is extremely easy to update the quantities of components consumed or quantities of products that are manufactured in the middle of the process. For example, in some distillation processes or extractions, the end result can be both variable in terms of components or in terms of amount produced. So let's go ahead and create a manufacturing order here. Let's produce some citrus oil, and I'm going to plan on making 300 liters. According to the bill of materials, it wants me to use these components in these quantities, and that's fine, so let's confirm to get it started. And I'm going to check the availability, but now at any point in the process, I can actually go ahead and click on a line and override the quantity to be less or more. So say I'm going to make this batch with less lemon juice than we usually do. And I'm going to counter it by adding extra preservatives, which is like the opposite of going organic. And it's going to alert you in red if you're going above the forecasted amount, but I'll talk about that all a bit later. So obviously that's pretty flexible right there to be able to do that. But I want to point out that these changes can also be made after the manufacturing order is completely finished. Sometimes this is necessary to correct a mistake that's been made, but also in many industries, you don't actually know what the specific yield is going to be right away. So I'm going to look at this list right here of old MOs. I'm going to go into one and I'm going to hit edit so that we can override the amount we said that we produced. We didn't make 300, we made 294. Maybe the yield was a little less than expected, and it immediately impacts our product moves over here. It actually overrides the old product move. So the overall relationship between stock moves and manufacturing has become a lot stronger and a lot less restrictive than in previous versions. So MRP can work really great in any situation like this. On a quick related note, I want to state that in config settings, you can always prohibit that flexibility if you want, so that only managers can edit it once they've unlocked the order first. So it's flexible by default, but you can override that and make it less flexible if you prefer. And there's actually, in addition to the general settings, there's also settings on each individual bill of material level for whether or not you allow that flexible consumption. So it's a lot more flexible now, but you can still control it and reduce that flexibility if you need it to. So changing quantities, it's certainly useful, but to go a step further in terms of flexibility, now you can actually deviate completely from the bill of materials or the work order operations plan. It's great for any highly customized products where for particular jobs, maybe you're going to add or remove components or add or remove work orders in the process. So let's go ahead and start this MO to build a wooden chair for a customer. As you can see from the bill of materials, I'm expecting to use 4 chair legs and 1 chair back and 1 regular seat. And for work orders, I'm planning on doing an assembly step that takes an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm it, but then let's say our customer requests that we actually build it using a solid gold seat instead. And they want us to paint the legs black to make it look really cool, okay? So now I can actually click edit and I can go ahead and override the quantity on the seat to 0. We're not going to use the regular seat. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new component called golden seat. Nice, one of those. Change the quantity to 1. And for work orders, I can also go and edit and add a whole new operation on this manufacturing order for painting at our painting work center. And also I'm going to say that this step is going to take 90 minutes instead of 60 minutes because we're going to take our time with it. And then I can save and I can continue on with the process. Now the changes that I made in that example, they're unique to that MO. They don't permanently change your base bill of materials for that wooden chair product. They just change it for that MO. But the costing of the specific MO is going to be accurate and it's going to reflect the change. So it's probably going to be a lot more because it was a golden seat. And so that's already a lot more control than before, but we were also able to give the user even more freedom. Because now you can even start a manufacturing order without any bill of materials at all. Now you can even start a manufacturing order without even having a bill of materials. I can start a new MO with a new product I created on the fly, and I can skip the BOM field because it's not mandatory. And I can just add some components and I can confirm it to get started. It's actually a really easy way of handling engineering to order requirements. If you're interested in hearing more about that, I encourage you to watch the talk that I'm doing this year all about custom manufacturing. So we were also able to add some new shortcuts and some improvements to give you more easy control over the whole manufacturing process. As you can see, now on your work orders, we have these inline buttons that will allow you to start, to pause, complete, or block the work order really easily, just inline. Start begins the timer and puts it in progress. Pause is if you've already started it, but you want to go on a break or on a lunch and you want to pause the timer. Done is when you're actually finished with the work order. And then block is if you need to freeze operations in the work center because of some sort of shutdown or issue. Of course, if you want to, or if you need to, you can still go into the full work order control panel by clicking the little mobile icon too, but depending on your process, you might prefer to just control it from this screen. And now the option is there to let you handle it either way, however you need. Another really nice feature that shows up on the screen is this little information icon right here, where if I click it, it's a popover that tells you important scheduling information about when this work order is expected to begin and also what it's waiting on. In this case, it's waiting on the very first work order right here to be completed, and it says when that's expected to take place. So it's just a much better way to manage work orders and plan from this screen. And while we're on the subject of planning and scheduling work orders, we've also improved the general planning view for work orders. This view is meant to help you schedule and reschedule your different work orders. And you can move them from one work order to another very easily. So one way we've improved it is that we actually show you the availability for your work orders. If it's grayed out on this view, then the work center isn't available at that time. If it's white, then it's okay to use at that time. Then if we go into one, if we actually click into it, we have that same helpful info popover for what is affecting its schedule. Now I want to point out as a side note that scheduling in general was a huge area of focus for our whole logistics R&D team this year. We made some very big improvements to deadline and scheduled date fields so that they behave way more like people want them to. And they do a much better job at reflecting any date changes both up and downstream. So now, for example, if a sales order's deadline changes, it can then reflect on that manufacturing order that it created, for example, right away. So something that must be highlighted that's going to maximize efficiency, not just in manufacturing, but across sales and purchasing and inventory as well, is two new features that work together hand in hand. We have a new forecasted report that you can view for any product that is very useful in showing the details of a product's forecasted demand. Great for components, especially for manufacturing. And then within operations like a manufacturing order, the availability date is directly impacted by that forecasted report, and they're linked together. So to demonstrate, let's create a manufacturing order for this robot, which requires some components, of course, as well as a subassembly A, that we'll need to build. As soon as it's confirmed, you'll see this nice new availability date indicator for each line. It's color-coded so that if a line is green, it's available in stock. We can click to view the forecasted report, and we'll see lines that indicate any allocations for what we have in stock and what will be remaining for specific dates for everything. Now, if a line is red, that means we don't currently have enough confirmed stock to meet the demand. Now, it'll trigger a draft PO, as you'll see here, to procure the remaining amount that I need, but I still need to confirm the PO. So I'm going to go into the PO, the purchasing app. I'm going to look at this. Let's say I'm the purchasing manager now. I'm going to go ahead and confirm this, and you'll see that there are specific planned dates to receive these things based on the settings, the 28th and the 21st, which if I go back to manufacturing, you'll see the availability dates are now orange right here, meaning that there are planned stock moves impacting the forecast, and it shows those dates. And it's not just for purchase goods. The forecasted report is something we can see for sub-assemblies that we're going to build too, like in this case. So here you'll see this is the pending MO that we need to complete for the sub-assembly. So I'm just going to go ahead and build that sub-assembly really fast, and you'll see it's automatically allocated to the main MO once it's done. Cool. So we build the sub-assembly, now it's allocated. So these dynamic availability dates linking to the new forecasted report view, it's going to make resource allocation, materials tracking, and just general supply chain needs so much more efficient and easy on the user now. Really, it's a massive improvement impacting not just manufacturing, but also all of the logistics related apps in Odoo. So all of your sales, your purchasing, aka basic ERP stuff. It's good. Very excited about it. And there's another really, really big change that we made to the platform that's directly related to the relationship between manufacturing and the overall supply chain. In previous versions, we had an option called make to order or replenished on order that would trigger the creation of either a manufacturing order or a purchase order as needed whenever there was a demand for the thing based on the sales orders you get or based on overall production orders. And that system worked pretty well for a lot of situations. We liked it, but the biggest problem was that it wasn't very flexible, and it actually wasn't that smart. A very common concern people would have was that if you already have 5 of some manufactured good in stock, it's on the shelf, you have 5 of them, and then you get a sale for 10 of that thing, before Odoo would just try to make you build 10 of that thing based on that order you just got, and it would ignore what you already had in stock, which is kind of a problem. So we've totally overhauled that whole system. We archived the old MTO route type, and now the way to handle it is actually with reordering rules. Because we've added flexibility in the trigger type, and most importantly, we made it so that it's all handled instantaneously in real time without relying on a scheduler the way that it used to. So let's take a look. Here's a product called Fancy Lamp, and we have 10 on hand, as you can see. Check the routes, and it's something we manufacture, but there's no option for make to order anymore. Up at the top, we click on this reordering rule, and we'll see there's a new way to view it. You'll see the trigger is set to auto, and it's just a minimum rule of 0 right here, min quantity of 0, meaning that if the forecast is based on demand, if the forecast based on demand takes it below 0, it's going to use this preferred route right here, manufacturer, to fulfill it. So yeah, if your forecast drops below 0, it's going to try to buy some. So let's see what happens when we sell this lamp. I'm going to go into the sales app. I'm going to create a new sales order to a customer that wants 30 lamps. Let's say Phil Spector. Let's add the product. Let's take that lamp product, and they want 30 of them. I'm going to enter 30, and it alerts me right here in line, hey, you only have 10 in stock. But I'll confirm it anyway. That's fine, because the sale's happening regardless. So now I'm going into the inventory app because I want to show you how the delivery order that was generated by the sales order looks. Here is the delivery order. Odoo says we've automatically reserved the 10 lamps we have in stock toward the order of 30. But we still need to manufacture 20 more if we want to fulfill this order. But first, I'm going to jump into the purchase app because we actually set it up so that the system also triggered the creation of a purchase order for a necessary component. Yeah, here we are. So quantity 20 of this component to build more lamps. So the real-time triggering of events, of course, it really involves both purchasing of components as well as the automatic creation of manufacturing orders too. It does both. It triggers purchasing, it triggers manufacturing. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm the purchase order. I'm going to receive it really fast. Let's say a week goes by, I receive it all in stock. All right, so now going into the manufacturing app, and you'll see there's a manufacturing order to build the remaining 20 lamps. The new automated replenishment, it's going to automatically allocate the components we just received to the order. So I'll go ahead and produce it. And then I'm going to go back into inventory now that we've built the remainder 20 lamps. And now I am able to ship it out. All 30 of the lamps, the 10 that I already had plus the 20 that I just built. Okay, long story short, Odoo does a really good job of automating manufacturing and purchasing for you, but it's also smart enough to consider the stuff that you already have in stock and adjust quantities accordingly. That's the biggest improvement because of this new way that we're doing it. Related to the new way that we handle replenishment, we'll also have this new replenishment report. Technically, you can access it in the inventory app by default, but it's super relevant to manufacturing, so I wanted to highlight it. It's cool because it's basically Odoo's way of notifying us whenever we have any product that is expected to be at a negative forecasted quantity. So if you sell something and you don't actually have it, it's going to pop up on this replenishment report with detailed info about why you're being alerted about it. It's all based on the forecasted quantity and how it relates to what you currently have on hand. And over the right here, we have some recommended actions to take. We could just order it once, just as a one-off thing, and it's going to generate a single manufacturing order, or it'll generate a PO for this product, whatever we have specified. Or if you click on the Automate Orders button, what it does, it's going to create a reordering rule for us, just like what we used in the previous example with the lamp. That way you won't ever have this kind of alert popping up again because you'll always be doing it automatically. And then the third action we could take is just snooze, which just allows us to tell the system, don't worry about it. It's a way for us to retain control over the system. Okay, so moving on, another way that we've generally improved efficiency and expanded the scope of manufacturing that relates to planning is our long-term planning tool, which is called the Master Production Schedule. Here's what the Master Production Schedule used to look like back in the previous version, version 13. For a single product like the office chair black here, if you enable all the rows to be visible using the rows option here, it's going to take up a huge chunk of the screen. And each product had its own horizontal scroll bar functionality, as you can see, and it had its own column headers. Took up a lot of space, honestly. It wasn't the most efficient. So we cleaned it up quite a lot. Here's the MPS in V14. Now you have all the same information that will help you plan out your production long-term and your procurement, but we consolidated several of the rows, reduced the redundancy, and in general, you can get a lot more quick, easy usability out of the MPS now. So in addition to all these changes, lastly, I also want to mention something that we did that just helps to expand upon the overall functionality, and this impacts costing. Very important part. Maybe you've completed a manufacturing order, but now you want to go back after the fact and you want to allocate the cost of some additional packaging charge, for example, or overhead labor, whatever. Here's a manufacturing order I've completed for producing some cans of Spam. I made 100 of them, and the total cost is $24,335, as you can see right here on the cost report. Okay, but I want to add an additional packaging charge. So I'm going to go into the inventory app and I'm going to go into landed costs right here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new landed cost. And now in V14, we can choose manufacturing orders. Couldn't do that before. I'm going to choose the MO in question, or you could choose multiple MOs if you want. But anyway, this one, I'm going to add the cost, which in this case is a packaging charge. Let's say the amount is $500. And then you can see through valuation adjustments how it's been adjusted. And it went from 24,335 up to 24,835. And most importantly, that's going to roll up into accounting as a journal entry in your general ledger as well. Okay, so there's certainly a lot more improvements and changes, but too many to fit into a 20-minute presentation. The main thing I want people to leave with is that we completely understand that manufacturing is not a one-size-all software need. But we really think, and we really feel confident in saying that because of the strong amount of control you have throughout the manufacturing process, and because of how efficient it is to work with in terms of both the ease of use, the usability, and also just everything we've done in regards to the planning and the scheduling, we really think Odoo is able to meet the requirements of any manufacturer out there. Thanks. Appreciate it. So, questions. I want to get through as many as possible, but we can still have the extended session. Deb T asked a great question. Since BOMs are not required, can you now confirm sales orders for existing make-to-order products without BOMs, or is the change to BOM requirements only for MOs created within the manufacturing app? I had to test that, but it's true that if you don't have a BOM set on the product, even if you say you manufacture it, it will not trigger an MO as make-to-order. So you do need to have a BOM if you want it to automatically trigger a new MO. It's true. But I think the idea is that you would only ever do a make-to-order thing if you had at least a basic BOM for it. It doesn't have to have any components or anything special in the BOM, but you have to have at least something. So I recommend setting that up before you sell it, before you confirm the sale.
Okay, I think they can hear me again. So now, yeah, the next question was from Albert. He was asking, let's say there is an MTO triggered from an SO. How would the SO change based on the products produced if the amount after confirming the sale has changed?
Albert, I want to thank you for asking a fantastic question. First off, so there's kind of two ways you could look at it. So if you change the sale order after the fact, so you confirm the sale, it makes an MO for say 5 of a product. And then afterwards, you change the sale order. Maybe the customer calls you and they say, well, actually, we're changing. We want to buy more. If you change the sale order after the fact, after you've already confirmed it, and you increase it to say 10 or 20, it will make another manufacturing order for the difference. So it doesn't roll up into the first manufacturing order. It makes a second one for whatever the difference is. If you go under, it should override the quantity of the first one, but I have to test that one. Now, the other way around, though, is if you decide to change the MO at some point afterwards, it doesn't reflect back on the sales order. I tested it. So one way or another, there should be ways to kind of handle that flow.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Next question was about a previous version. They were saying that Odoo wasn't reserving the product available and creating manufacturing orders from the one missing. So is that true?
It wasn't doing that if you set it to make to order. It did work if you did reordering rules, which is kind of what we're doing these days. It's just the big difference is that reordering rules weren't instantaneous before. It was based on a scheduler, so you'd have to increase the scheduler frequency, or you'd have to click manually run scheduler, or you just wait. So the regular MTO route did not take into account what you already had in stock. So
okay,
that helps to clarify.
Perfect. Another question was, are there any new changes to the work orders functionality?
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of skipped over that a little bit, but one of the biggest changes, which is kind of significant, is that work order operations are just now on the bill of materials. We merge routings and BOMs together, which is a little revolutionary, but we promise overall it's better to work with. It's gonna save time, make it easier. So that's a big change. But the other thing is within the work order control panel screen, now you have a button for adding components. So just like it's flexible on the MO, like I showed, it's flexible within the work orders themselves. Those are the main changes that I know of.
All right, thanks. Do the new routings and MOs prevent negative inventory?
No, not by default. It's still the same as before. If you want to prevent that, you'd have to create a some sort of customization, automated action, or you can just put an approval step on everything too. I don't know.
All right. Another question from Xavier. Is there any possibility to use the template BOM to be used in any product? For example, I sell a new product. That new product automatically uses the template BOM. Is that a new feature?
Is that a new feature, the template bomb? Might be referring to the demo or the other talk I talked about custom manufacturing. That was just a light studio customization. What I meant by that is that you could have a general BOM. That's just a BOM. It's just a bill of materials. But you treat it like a template where you're copying and paste, or you're duplicating it and making changes as needed on a case-by-case basis. And so it's a feature that you can use in standard with just a little tiny bit of studio, and it's more of a process to follow.
Okay. Thanks, Brett. Thanks. Actually, we'll have to stop for this session, but you will be available for next extended Q&A. We will drop the link here for the extended session. Thank you very much, Brett, for all the answers and for your presentation. Have a good evening, and thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.